Salutations, crustaceans. I'm Lobster, and today we're going to be reviewing the Ibanez Soundgear SR605E. Let's do this. This is the Ibanez Soundgear SR605E. And in my opinion, this is one of the best value sound gears in terms of features and specs. Featuring a 3-piece ash body finished in a cosmic blue starburst flat finish. I believe that's what it's called. It's a flat blue burst, and it is quite appealing. In my opinion, it is a very good looking finish. However, it is very thin and very prone to dings and dents, and this I bought secondhand. It did receive some shipping damage from the first seller when he bought it. I purchased this locally, and in my opinion, I'm just looking at the finish and how thin it is, how it's taken just a few little dings and whatnot, and it's not great in my opinion. Again, there's not really a lot of protection for the wood. It's a very thin finish, and if you rest your thumb over the pickup, I suspect that you may be wearing through it over time. Anyways, that's the body, and that is paired to a 5-piece Jatoba and walnut neck. And that has a rosewood fretboard. We have a 24 fret, 34-inch scale fingerboard with a 45mm nut width. At the heel of the neck, we also notice that there is a truss rod adjustment versus having it at the headstock. This is my second favorite design, where my first favorite is obviously the truss rod wheel. But having the heel adjustment here gives you easy access to the truss rod compartment without needing to remove the strings. Up at the headstock, we have a matching finish in the front, and then 5 lightweight Ibanez standard closed gear tuners. Speaking of hardware, we have the Ibanez AccuCast bridge. This is an extremely adjustable bridge. You can adjust the spacing a little bit. This has 16.5mm spacing out of the box though, which in my opinion is on the tight side, but I know that pick players and other fingerstyle players potentially like that. So, you know, no hating on 16.5mm. It's not too tight. It's just a little tight for my preferences. We have individual height adjustment, intonation adjustment. It's a fully featured bridge. Ibanez never really skimps on their bridge designs on their mid-tier and higher up basses. They're usually pretty solid, in my opinion. For electronics, this is both one of my favorite and least favorite aspects of this bass. These pickups, these are the Nordstrand Big Break pickups. These are the import versions of the Big Split that are produced for Ibanez, I believe by Cort. These are awesome pickups. They sound amazing. I think that they're one of the best sounding sound gear pickups, and to get these in a, I guess, lower tier sound gear, you usually see this stuff in like the 1200, 1300 series, but to see pickups like these on the 600 series of all places is a really nice touch. In my opinion, I think that this particular model definitely is trying to push aside the old 500 series, which has been an Ibanez staple since the mid-2000s. The Ibanez SR500 and 505 and 506 feature Bartolini MK1 pickups and then an Ibanez preamp. So this is sort of the successor to the Ibanez Soundgear 500 series. So these awesome Nordstrand pickups are paired to an Ibanez custom 3-band preamp with a 3-way toggle switch for 3 different mid-frequencies, as well as a second 2-way toggle switch for a preamp bypass. When the preamp is bypassed, our treble control acts as a passive tone control, which is a nice touch. Now, one thing I don't like about this bass in regards to the electronics is the quality control. The pickup wires are like 1,000,000 miles long, and the shielding job is atrocious. With those closed-cased Bartolini pickups, you are much less prone to external interference. However, a much more classically styled pickup like this requires better shielding, and Ibanez definitely dropped the ball there. But there are definitely some issues in regards to the wiring that are quality control related that should have been addressed. Now, let's go ahead and turn this bass around. Around back, we see the beautiful finish, the beautiful but fragile finish, and a 9-volt battery compartment, a decently sized control cavity, and a 4-bolt neck attachment, attaching the 5-piece Jatoba and walnut neck. The neck looks great from the back, and it feels great as well. Very nice finish on the neck. It's a satin finish all around. Now onto the control cavity. In the B-roll that you see, you may notice some major chips down by the control cavity. When I got this bass, I noticed there was a little bit of interesting noise. I wanted to investigate this further, so I wanted to open the control cavity. I see some pry marks from the previous owner, I assume, who probably got fed up. I was barely able to open the control cavity, and when I did, I noticed that the cavity cover was way too big and was just jammed in there. So it was completely stuck. I had to drill a little hole in one of the screw holes here, but drill it like right between where the cavity cover meets the wood, so I could get a little device in there to pry it open. After sanding down the cavity cover, however, everything works fine, but that is a big QC flub. Big. And I was very disappointed, which makes this so difficult because there are some aspects about this bass that I absolutely love. Speaking of aspects I love, the weight of this bass is 8.5 pounds. For an ash-bodied instrument, that is very good. And the balance of this bass is very nice as well. The ergonomics of the Soundgear series have always been quite solid in my opinion. They're not large instruments, they're lightweight, they're portable, and they deliver big tone, especially the higher end ones. Now, how much does the Soundgear SR605 that's behind this cat's butt cost? Brand new, these basses are currently $7.99. For $7.99, that is definitely a bit more expensive than the outgoing Soundgear 505, but the price for this, in my opinion, is relatively reasonable given the high quality electronics. The prices of the lower end Soundgears are definitely creeping up a bit, but you do get high quality materials like the ash body, which is something that definitely demands a price premium nowadays. And I know you're all wondering, what does this bass sound like? You all know what you need to do. Go ahead and pinch that like button so my hand will turn back to normal. Thanks. So that is the Soundgear SR605E. I like the neck profile of the higher end Soundgears like this versus what you see in the 300 series, which in my opinion feels a little too pencil-y and cheap. But this feels very fast and premium. The 45mm nut width is not the tightest thing in the world, so if you're looking for an absolute pencil, look elsewhere because this is definitely a nice profile. It's a comfortable profile. It's not too thin. Now let's just talk about the tone of this bass. These Nordstrand pickups deliver an absolute beautiful feast of clarity and thunderous low end. I think that these sound great. Absolutely great. I totally wish that they had one of these pickups in the bridge position of the Talman TMB 505, which had instead a import version of the big single. So just wish they had that because again, this is a great sounding pickup and these things are quiet. So let's explore these pickups first with the preamp bypass, and we're going to utilize the treble control as the passive tone control here. Let's start out with the neck pickup first. Real beautiful tone out of that. It's P-bass-ish and could definitely pass as a P-bass in a mix. Let's turn the tone down to about 50% now. Luckily we have a center detent on that treble control, which again doubles as the passive tone control, so you have a nice consistent 50% here. Speaking of tone, let's talk about that B string for a 34-inch scale bass, especially one that doesn't have a lot of mass to it. This is a relatively small and compact instrument. The body is pretty thin. You definitely have a lot of low-end tone on this B string, and I think it sounds great. Oh man. And here's the tone all the way down. And that is the neck pickup with the passive tone control. I think that again, this can pass for a P-bass, and you have the addition of the 5th string as well. I'm not saying it's a perfect P-bass clone, but again, in a mix, you get that same kind of woolly tone out of this. But it is also a split coil pickup here, so you don't have to deal with any single coil hum. Next, let's pan over to the bridge pickup. Here's what that sounds like with the tone all the way up. That is also a very nice sounding pickup. However, it really doesn't imitate like a jazz bridge pickup, but it does have its own sound, which in my opinion sounds great. You have a lot of clarity and a lot of growl. Let's go ahead and turn the tone down to about 50% now. And here's the tone all the way down. Let's go ahead and turn the tone control back up and center our blend control. So now we have both pickups engaged. Here's what that sounds like with the tone all the way open. tone at 50%. And here's the tone all the way down. So those are the Nordstrand big brake pickups. From what I understand, again, they're the import version of the big splits. Really nice pickups here, very nice. Now let's engage our preamp. I will be testing out the preamp with the blend control centered, so we're gonna have both pickups on together. Here's again what the preamp sounds like with all the control center. The three-way toggle switch for the mid-frequency is not in play right now because the mid-frequency control is centered and our other two controls are centered as well. Here's what this sounds like. Now, what I'm going to do is scoop the mids. We're going to bring the mid control down all the way. We're going to boost the treble about 50% to a 50% boost, mind you. And then we're going to have the bass at a 50% boost as well. We have our three-way toggle switch for 250 Hertz, 450 Hertz, and 700 Hertz for our mid-frequency target. Let's start out with 250 with the mid scooped. Next up, let's flip the switch to 450 Hertz. Next up is 700 Hertz. Now let's go ahead and center our treble and our bass controls and boost our mids 50% and do it all over again. We're going to have 250 Hertz selected. Next, we're going to boost 450 Hertz. And then finally, we will boost 700 Hertz. So I think for a boost, the 700 Hz mode sounds the best, but for a cut, I think that cutting 250 Hz also sounds the best. So that is essentially the preamp. Let's go ahead and center everything one more time, and I'm gonna go ahead and grab my pick. Let's see how it sounds with a pick. I need to work on that. And the tight spacing is a bit of a challenge for me. I much prefer 18 or 19 millimeter, just my personal preference. The tighter spacing does not make picking any easier for me personally. Now, with this particular setting engaged, let's see how she slaps. Yeah, this slaps very nicely, except for, again, the tight spacing is a bit of a challenge for me. But I think the tone out of these pickups is absolutely beautiful. And finally, let's go ahead and throw some drums behind this bass. So here are my final thoughts on the Ibanez Soundgear SR605E. Overall, I think that this is a really nice instrument, and its quality control is what really lets it down. I think these pickups sound amazing, and the preamp would definitely do it justice if it wasn't just so shoddily wired. You really don't need a million feet of pickup wire, and that only cramps the cavity even further. And I think that is part of the culprit, as well as the really poor shielding job that is inside this cavity. Again, here's a picture. Speaking of the cavity, the fact that the cavity cover was too big for the bass and yet was still installed and made removing it a huge pain in the butt is a definite knock on this particular example. I'm not sure how prevalent that is going to be among other ones, but for this bass here, that is what I experienced, and I have to review the bass in front of me. I have to give it some leeway though because of its secondhand nature, but the fact that the original owner was never even able to open it, but he tried, and the fact that this finish is so frail are definitely some big red flags in my book in terms of if I wanted to purchase this as my long-term instrument. That being said, I think that this bass will wear nicely if you're looking for a worn look. But in terms of resale value, I know that the big thumb mark that you're going to get over time is definitely not going to do you any favors. I do appreciate the use of high quality components here, but I think that, again, the quality control and consistency when it comes to an instrument like this is definitely not up to par. So what am I going to rate the Ibanez Soundgear SR605E? I'm going to rate this bass 3 claws out of 5. The quality control issues that I experienced, which were, in my opinion, significant, but not enough to impact playability or the overall experience of the instrument in any overly significant way, I was still pretty peeved about the issues that I had with the control cavity. I think that without these issues, this bass could definitely be close to one of the best sound gear values out there. Again, these electronics sound absolutely stellar. I love these pickups. And paired with this preamp, I think that there is a lot of potential here. Now, if Ibanez could get the quality control worked out a bit more, I think that they would have a major gem on their hands. But that is what I think about the Ibanez Soundgear SR605. Again, for $799, I expect better in regards to that quality control, but this offers so much, and so much of it is usable, much more so than what you see in the Ibanez Soundgear, the 300 series and the 400 series, which use a lower tier of electronics and, in my opinion, just don't sound good. This, on the other hand, sounds spectacular. It's just the quality control that really lets it down. You gotta do better, Ibanez. You really gotta do better, but you're on the right path. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like, subscribe, and join our Discord channel. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Ibanez Soundgear SR605E. And as always, until we groove again,